And here with me is Dr. Timothy Ratliff, the Robert Wallace Miller Director of Purdue University Center for Cancer Research. During this online event, we'll be talking about adding to Purdue's strengths in drug discovery to alleviate suffering for people with cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, immune disorders, infectious diseases, and trauma. Drug discovery has a prominent place in Purdue Moves initiatives and the university's priorities. What is this initiative's primary mission, and why now?
Well, the primary mission is really to develop drugs that are going to help people. That's what we've been trying to do for years, and we really want to ramp it up and do a lot better job of that and do it a lot faster and get things out to people in a way that will help them as quickly as possible.
What's like the turnaround for developing a drug, would you say?
It takes really about 10 years on average to do that, and we'd like to speed it up.
Yeah.
And so we have a real emphasis to try to bring more people in to help us discover more drugs, but we're also trying to develop ways to move it in a much more rapid manner down to clinical trials. So we've developed a company called Boilermaker Health Innovations, and it's a not-for-profit company, a 501c3, and the intent of this whole company really is to facilitate the rapid movement of drugs that are discovered here at Purdue to clinical trials.
What are some of the specific goals of this significant investment in drug discovery?
Well, Purdue has a very strong foundation in drug discovery, and we're really trying to build on that foundation. And the most important thing that we can do is bring in people. You know, the greatest minds discover the greatest things. And so we have recruitment. That's really a high priority. We're bringing in people. And then these people have to have a place to work. And so we're building new buildings. We have the Center for Drug Discovery building that opens next month, like tomorrow. And then we have a Multidisciplinary Cancer Research Facility that's a partnership with Bentley Bioscience Center in Discovery Park. And we're opened that last month. So we have a lot of new space to pull people together and help them interact and make drugs in a more rapid way.
Awesome. I mentioned some of the diseases earlier, but what for Purdue are the specific ones that research are developing treatments now?
Well, we really attack as many diseases as we have minds to attack, but we have a great emphasis in cancer, and that's generated because we have a Center for Cancer Research that's funded by the National Cancer Institute. And, it's one of only 7 NCI-designated basic science cancer centers in the country. So it's very unique, and we have had funding since 1978. So we've had a tremendous emphasis on drug discovery, and that forms a very nice foundation. We've got about 12 drugs in clinical trials right now that were discovered here at Purdue that are cancer focused. But we look at other diseases too, and many others are very important to us. Neurologic diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all of those are very important. We have a large effort. Infectious disease, you know, you read a lot today about viruses and these antibiotic resistant bacteria, and so we have a big emphasis on trying to develop new therapeutics to stop the growth of those organisms. And cardiovascular disease, which is a major killer in this country. Even though we've made great strides, we still have a long way to go. So we're working in that area too.
Yeah. Are there specific types of cancers that you guys are primarily looking at, or?
No, we really attack all the cancers,
yeah. Okay.
And our goal is to have a therapeutic for every cancer.
Yeah. Awesome. You mentioned that there are some drugs in clinical trials now, but are there any close to commercialization? There
certainly are. We just had a recommendation by a review panel in Europe. And the recommendation was a positive response to a clinical trial that was done in ovarian cancer. And the recommendation was for approval for the European FDA, if you want to call it that, to approve the drug for sales in Europe. So it hasn't been done yet, but the recommendation's there, and we think it's close. We have a second drug that is in lung cancer, and it met its primary endpoints. So what that means is in a late clinical trial, it's proven to be very effective in inhibiting the growth of lung cancer, which is the major killer in this country. So that one we think will be next in line for some approval. So we have a lot going on in that arena, and we're very happy about it, but we want to expand it.
Drug discovery is inherently interdisciplinary, and then moving medicines toward commercialization requires a whole other skill set. Please discuss translational research and tell about how many academic units are involved in this initiative on campus.
Well, it's a huge number. Just in the Center for Cancer Research itself, we have 19 departments that are represented. And all of those contribute in one way or another to drug discovery. They discover new pathways that are necessary for cancer cells to grow. And once they discover a new pathway, that means our chemists can then find new molecules to block that pathway and kill the cancer cell. So it goes all the way, and it really requires tremendous breadth of expertise to get from discovering that pathway to developing a new molecule that will block this pathway and kill the cancer cell, and then moving it downstream all the way into clinical trials, and then ultimately all the way to approval. And we can't do all of that at Purdue, but what we really think that we can do very well is discover and take those new drugs through proof of principle clinical trial. And there's just a tremendous need in funding to get the drugs from that discovery point to the clinical trials. There's something called the Valley of Death. And the Valley of Death is there because you can't get funds to move these drugs through these routine analyses that are required to be sure that the drugs are safe for human use. So we really have to increase our funding in that arena to move those things downstream.
You talked about the new facilities. How many research buildings on Purdue's campus directly support your mission of cancer research and drug discovery?
I don't know the exact number. Like I said, we have at least 19 different departments and represented by 6 colleges and schools across campus. So there are many, many buildings involved in this. And there's some really special ones, multidisciplinary buildings that pull people from all these different departments together so that they're interacting. So the person who's over here on this end discovering these new pathways, that person needs to talk to the chemist who's going to synthesize this molecule. They need to understand the interaction. And it goes all the way down through getting through the Valley of Death and the cores that we have to do the things that we have to do to get everything done to get the drugs in clinical trials. So these special buildings pull these multidisciplinary faculty together. Multidisciplinary just means a lot of different expertise, right? And they work together that way. And that facilitates a much more rapid progression for the products.
Can you tell us more about the new drug discovery building?
Yeah, the new drug discovery building will be online next month, by the way. So it's a beautiful new building, state-of-the-art chemical synthesis building with state-of-the-art facilities for supporting drug discovery. Tremendous facility and really an attractive point. When I said most important thing we can do is get people, really smart people who are dedicated, well, they have to have a place to work and a place that's really attractive for them to work. And so having these new buildings really helps us attract the minds that we really want here at Purdue.
There's also a new multidisciplinary cancer research facility, a $15.9 million expansion of the Binley Bioscience Center and Discovery Park. How will this new facility accelerate cancer research and drug discovery and development process at Purdue? And what kind of advanced instrumentation do you need to achieve your goals?
So that's a partnership between Binley Bioscience Center and the Center for Cancer Research. And the addition, the multidisciplinary cancer research facility, will be occupied by Center for Cancer Research members. And what it does is pulls in the Binley Bioscience faculty and infrastructure that are already there. And there's significant shared resources that provide a lot of tools for faculty to use to get their discoveries moving forward. So it pulls all of that together with a multidisciplinary group, people from many of those different departments. There are about 10 different faculty that will go into that building. They've already been assigned, and we're starting to move into the facility now. We have a couple of people already in the facility, and it's just a progression of getting everything together. But so what is it going to do? It pulls these different minds together that look at things in a different way, and we'll be sitting there talking and discussing problems, and new ideas arise, and so we begin to address new problems, develop new drugs, and really have a much greater impact just through that interaction of being together.
Do you expect that the university and the greater Lafayette community will benefit economically from the investment in drug discovery and research here?
Oh, absolutely. So I realized that I forgot one part of your question before, and that was the instrumentation.
Oh, right, yeah.
We do need instrumentation, and it's very important for us to have the kinds of equipment that allow us to, for example, determine what compound we're synthesizing. Sort of like going and having an X-ray or a CAT scan. You kind of image the body and you see that all the organs are in place and they look right. Yeah. Well, we need to do the same thing on the chemicals that we're synthesizing. And so it's very analogous. We take an X-ray of those chemicals, and by analyzing that, we can tell if it's the right chemical at the right structure. So we really have need for that type of equipment right now. And additional equipment, the core services that are provided really are very important to enabling a faculty member who is well versed in discovering this pathway, but really doesn't know how to synthesize a new chemical. Well, we have what's called a medicinal chemistry shared resource. So we have people in place that synthesize these things all the time. So the faculty member can just hand it off and then get the product back. They don't have to know how to do it themselves. So getting all of that support facility kind of in place is really very important. We need equipment across the board for all of those kinds of things. Now, you asked me another question, and I forgot that one.
How do you expect the community to benefit economically from?
Right. So that will happen because, as I said earlier, Purdue is very good at certain things. So we can really discover things, and we can get them through like a proof of principle clinical trial. But we really can't take them from that proof of principle clinical trial to FDA approval. You really have to form a company to do that. And so that's how the economy will benefit. As we move all of these drugs downstream, we'll spin them off into new companies. For example, Endosite. A lot of people are familiar with Endosite. It's based on discoveries here at Purdue, and it's I don't know how many employees they have now, probably around 100 employees, and theirs are the drugs that are about to be approved in Europe. So, they're going to be bringing money in and expanding their facilities, and that'll really help our economy.
Awesome. And now to kind of talk about how students can play a role in all of this. How do you think that these drug discovery and cancer research initiatives can impact students' education here?
It'll impact it in a lot of different ways, actually, because the students normally go into a lab, and they're either discovering these pathways or synthesizing these compounds or something like that. And what we're trying to do through these new buildings, the Center for Drug Discovery and Multidisciplinary Cancer Research Facility, is to expose students not just to the thing that they're learning specifically, but to expose them to really how to take that drug from discovery all the way through a clinical trial. And that will expand their knowledge base tremendously and make them much more marketable. We don't have specific coursework for that. What we do have is experienced scientists who can educate them in a mentoring-like way, and I think that's going to be very beneficial for drug discoverers, the next generation of drug discoverers.
Do you think there'll be opportunities for students to have internships or anything, like kind of have a research mentor that they can help out?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We welcome that. We have programs right now, summer research programs for undergraduates. We bring them in to the labs, and we start teaching them about research and drug development at at a very early age. And then of course we have a lot of graduate students that we train and specifically to be the next generation of scientists. And students bring in a new perspective and a new outlook. And it's really fun to be a mentor and to encourage students to think, because thinking about new things is really what it's all about. And you always run into somebody who will say, oh, that won't work. But you have to think about it and then try it. And so that's the important thing, is trying it. So you have an idea, but then you have to test it. That's what science is all about, right? So as you test that idea, you either validate your idea or not. And importantly, we have to have money to do those tests. And those tests, you can't get money from outside to do that, because it's just an idea. It may not be a good idea, or may be a great idea. So we try to fund those ideas, that innovation kind of thing, early on, and we encourage students to do that.
Will there be any new degree programs or curriculum changes associated with this?
No, we have coursework in drug discovery, but we don't at this point have any definite plans to change curricula or have a specific degree. We've talked about it, but haven't moved to make it happen yet.
So what has private giving meant to cancer research over the years, and what will it mean for Drug Discovery's growth initiative going forward?
It's could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
So what has private giving meant to cancer research over the years, and what will it mean for Drug Discovery's growth moving forward here?
Private giving is essential for us to move things forward. I can give you several examples. I just gave one about discovery and new ideas. You know, it's essential for getting these new ideas to a point where we can get funding from the outside. That's one thing. But you take the Center for Cancer Research. It's been funded by the National Cancer Institute since 1978. And in the last 3 years, they've cut the budget by 11%. Now, we're not decreasing in our size, and we're not decreasing our effort to try to find new drugs. So we're continuing to expand, but the only way we can do that is really through gifts and more other kinds of foundational grants that we get. The Walter Cancer Foundation, an Indiana-based 501c3, is very important in providing us with funds as well. So we try to get funds wherever we can, but those gifts make a big, big difference to us.
I bet. Given the enormous cost associated with bringing new medicine to market, does a private individual's gift really matter?
Wow, yes. I mean, if everyone who's watching this just didn't buy that cup of coffee today and sent us that money, we'd have hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know?
Yeah.
So every little bit helps. So.
Absolutely. And how will the funds raised today be allocated?
Well, our funds will go to drug discovery in one way or another. We're going to discover new pathways. We're going to fund new ideas to see if they really work. We're going to take those drugs that we know have the potential to work. We're going to bridge that valley of death, and we're going to get them into clinical trials. And we will even support some clinical trials.
And what kind of gifts are needed?
Any kind of gift.
Yeah.
You know, people, a lot of people experience various diseases of various types. And of course they can, if they want to give to Alzheimer's or they want to give to Parkinson's or cancer, they can give to those specific diseases, and the money will be used for that. So it's very important, you know, like for myself. My father died of cancer, and that's really one of the reasons I do what I do. So that experience becomes really very important, not only to tracking a career and helping you decide, you know, what you want to do and how you want to make a difference in life, but it also makes a difference in giving. So if you don't want somebody else to suffer like your loved one did, then this kind of help will really benefit us. Yeah,
and one of my favorite quotes is, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I think cancer research, we're just doing it to help people further down the road and prevent all of those illnesses.
And I can't tell you how many really cool things we have going on. Don't have time to really get into it, but it's really, we're really making a difference.
So can you tell us a little more about your background? You kind of touched on it there, and how you got involved in cancer research?
Yeah, so for me personally, I love the outdoors. And so I was in graduate school studying little blue herons. So it's a bird.
Yeah.
And my dream was actually to be a park ranger.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then my father died of malignant melanoma.
Okay.
And my father-in-law then died of prostate cancer. And that happened really within a 6-month time frame.
Wow.
And, I just changed what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I still love the outdoors,
Yeah.
and I hike and go out and do all kinds of things. But my profession is really trying to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the basic process of drug discovery in broad strokes?
The basic process begins with understanding the cancer cell.
Okay.
You want to know how it works and what makes it a cancer cell.
Mm-hmm.
As you begin to understand what makes it a cancer cell, you try to attack that and block it.
Okay.
And the way you attack it and block it is start developing new drugs to block this pathway that's essential to the cancer cell. And so that's really the start of it all. And then we move it down and into clinical trials through really a very fundamental and established process. The Food and Drug Administration has certain criteria that you have to meet to get things into humans. They have to be safe, you have to document that they're safe, and all these kinds of things. And so there's just a lot of governmental regulations that you have to understand to be able to get them in there. And we're trying to bring in all that expertise as well.
Okay. How does Purdue's research in cancer and drug discovery compare to other institutions?
We are among the leaders.
Okay.
We have 37 different drugs that are in the pipeline, which means a drug's been discovered and is being tested in cells to see if it can block those pathways, all the way to clinical trials. And as I said earlier, we got 12 just cancer-related drugs in clinical trials right now. And so we are really among the leaders just in general drug development. And when you think about the way cancer is treated, so you hear this term personalized medicine all the time, and you hear about chemotherapy and how it really adversely affects people. It kills the cancer, but it kills everything else too. So what Purdue is doing is targeting cancer cells in a very specific way. And one way to think about it, in World War II, we had what we called carpet bombing to eliminate targets. So we weren't very sophisticated, and we would identify a town that contained some airplane factory or something like that, so we'd destroy the whole town. And in destroying the whole town, we'd hope we'd get the airplane factory. Well, that's kind of the way chemotherapy is. We destroy all cells that are dividing. And people lose their hair, they get sick, they get infections, they have to go in the hospital, all these different things. And so what Purdue does is just targets the cancer cell itself, reduces all that toxicity. It's like a laser-guided missile. You just put the laser on there and you hit it directly. And so that has proven to be really, really fantastic. Yeah. And because you're targeting a specific cancer cell, then you can personalize the treatment. Right. So you can tell before you begin treatment whether that cancer cell has the marker you need to target it.
Yeah.
So you do an imaging study, you find out if it's there. If it's there, then you treat. If it's not there, you do another treatment up front, and that really enhances the outcomes overall.
Sure. You mentioned that we have one that's made it past clinical trials and now recommended. What are some of the other success stories of drug discovery at Purdue?
So we have a new prostate cancer targeting agent developed by Phil Lau. This was a very unique situation. Phil had developed this targeting agent, and we ran the first clinical trial here from Purdue in collaboration with Indiana University Simon Cancer Center. And it's one of those targeting agents that recognizes the prostate cancer cell. And so we did an imaging study to show that it really recognized only the cancer cell. And we entered 9 different patients on it, and we showed very clearly that it recognizes the cancer cell and will target. All that was done here at Purdue. They have what's called the Food and Drug Administration has what's called a investigational new drug application. So you have to get approval from the FDA to actually run a clinical trial. So we did all that through Purdue and partnered with IU and got the trial done. And then Endocyte now has this compound, and they are about to begin a new therapeutic trial, and they hope to begin that this year. So all because we ran through this and showed that it was really good, that decreased the risk to a company, increased the potential for success, and now it's on the front line. So.
Wow. How are your recruitment efforts going to bring in researchers here, and what motivates them to come to Purdue to be part of our initiative?
Well, our initiatives, we're really trying to bring in the best of the best. And why would they come to Purdue? Because we're among the best. And they know that they can help us be the absolute best. So to integrate into the Purdue atmosphere is when you talk about being the best and having 37 different drugs in the pipeline and all that's really good. But the truth of the matter is the faculty are just fun to work with. Yeah. And they like working with other people. And so the interactions are really good, and that enhances discovery and enhances our ability to move things toward the clinical studies that we want to do. So I think we can attract really the best. I'm not worried about that.
Awesome. For drug discovery in general, how do you determine priorities when you're deciding which diseases to create pharmaceuticals for?
Boy, that's a good question. I tell you, determining priorities is very difficult. So we have an external advisory committee that is comprised of 9 different individuals who have taken a total of 30 drugs through FDA approval. Very experienced group of men and women who have the expertise to provide advice to us. So we bring them in and they evaluate our drugs and help us begin to focus. We have limited resources right now, so we have to focus on the high probability success stories. And so they help us decide what those are.
Since you've been at Purdue, what are some of the most surprising or novel discoveries that researchers have made in cancer research or drug discovery?
So I began my career at Washington University School of Medicine, and that's a very clinically oriented place. And then I went to the University of Iowa, again, very clinically oriented. So I come to Purdue, and it's a basic science center. There's no clinical component. And as I was visiting here during the recruitment process and talked to many of the scientists, it was just unbelievable to me the tools and knowledge base and novel things that are available to really be utilized to address questions in cancer. And so I was so attracted to it that my biggest fear was they weren't going to want me to come here. But fortunately, I did come. And we've really taken and applied a lot of these basic discoveries to cancer-related phenomena that have generated tremendous discoveries. I'll give you one example. So Graham Cooks, a world-renowned analytical chemist, discovered a new way to do something called mass spectrometry. And all that means is you detect different chemicals and you can determine what they are, right? So he developed a whole new way to detect these chemicals. And before I came, he wanted to apply that to cancer. And he even put one of his units down at IU, but nobody would use it. And so he had to pull it back. Mm-hmm. So when he and I talked, I said, we can get this done. And so we developed the right relationships, and he went down there and he began imaging many different cancers, among them prostate cancer. So he imaged prostate cancer and he found out, so to put this in perspective, he discovers a new chemical, a new instrument to determine what chemicals are, right? That has nothing to do with cancer. But we applied it to cancer by determining what metabolites are in cancer cells versus normal cells. And because this doesn't damage tissue, he can distinguish a cancer cell from a non-cancer cell. So he discovered new markers of cancer. And in discovering those new markers, those biologists over here who want to understand how that cancer cell's working and what, well, those metabolites had to be metabolized, right? So there's a process ongoing. So these biologists are now studying those metabolites and how they're made, and it turns out that if you attack the enzymes that make those metabolites, you kill the prostate cancer cell. Now, isn't that cool? It is incredible.
That's awesome. And for our viewers, you can give to the Center for Cancer Research, the Center for Drug Discovery, and other drug discovery initiatives to help find new solutions and even cures for the disease. See the Donate Now button on the Purdue Day of Giving website. And we'd like to wrap up our conversation and celebrate Purdue Day of Giving with a rapid fire quiz that celebrates all things Purdue.
Okay.
Are you up for it?
I'm for it. Let's go.
All right, here we go. Black or gold?
Gold.
The smokestack or the Purdue Bell Tower?
Bell Tower. Have you ever been there at sunrise?
No, I'm not. Not at sunrise.
You should try it. It's beautiful.
Add that to my bucket list. Slater Hill, sledding or a concert?
Sledding.
Purdue Mall Fountain or Loeb Fountain?
The Mall Fountain.
Boilermaker Special or Purdue Pete?
Boilermaker Special.
For the Spring Fest Bug Bowl, cockroach racing or cricket spitting?
Cockroach racing.
And for Purdue Day of Giving, give it back or pay it forward?
All of the above.
Absolutely. Thank you, and thanks to everyone watching online. You can give back and pay it forward by donating at the Purdue Day of Giving website. Just click on the Donate Now button. Thank you.
Thank you.